there's a lot of Allie that's me, and there's a lot of Harper that is other people, and so their futures are, I think, not as bleak as they may seem.
Because it's very funny, but it is. There's a lot of poignancy that kind of comes to the forefront at the end of the film in particular. I just felt so bad for Allie because she's, I think, trying to do something good, but everyone just gives her a hard time for the whole film. Questions her motives.
Yeah, I think there's a self-consciousness about trying to do things that are good a lot of times, especially in New York City, or in general, when you're trying to do something good and your motives are questioned. And I think that she is very conscious of those things, and has to justify the fact that she understands that sometimes being altruistic means being selfish, and that those things can coexist, and that that's okay.
And Liberia is just taking it on the chin.
Oh, Jesus.
It has a whole new meaning now that people are seeing in the last couple weeks.
I know. It's such a nightmare. I wish obviously this movie was made last year in September, and clearly nobody could predict what was going to happen in the next year, so it's very uncomfortable for me to watch.
It's awkward laughing when
Yeah.
people bring to Liberia. It's a new context. So I also had to mention, and this is sort of the elephant in the room, the kittens in the trash can. Right? Now, the people who have seen it in advance of tonight's screening, that's been a really hot topic of conversation.
Oh, has it really?
Yes, kittens in the trash can. So now, how did that go down?
You mean, how are they?
Yeah, how are the kittens?
They're all dead.
They all drowned.
No, we took the ocean. Mike's going out at a really bad time. No, the kittens are all fine. We got them from a store, a pet store in Brooklyn, right near Fort Tilden. They're very happy. They went back to their store at the end of the day. We got distribution, so we're now putting a disclaimer at the end of the film that says no kittens were harmed in the filming of it. I feel like probably 95% of the people in the audience know my parents, and if you know my parents, you know how much my family cares about cats. And I should say that when I first read the script, I told SV, I said, I couldn't fucking stop thinking about the cats, so you should rewrite this. And she's like, no, it's okay, people are gonna forget about it during the scene where all of your breasts are out. And I was like, no, about that. And
Do you want to use mine? I think mine's better.
hello, am I just being
Yes,
recorded?
okay.
We want to hear you too, though.
Well, the breasts do not erase the kittens, just FYI. we're still thinking about the kittens.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Yes.
It's very
But I'm glad you're putting the tag on at the end, because that's important for people. Good.
I think it is.
Oh.
Oh, thank you very much.
No. No, it's fine.
We don't want to hear you.
We're just trying to confuse you. This is part of your improv training. Like,
It's okay.
Can you handle all this?
I could be pretty quick about it on my feet.
So this was your first feature.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you working on something else now?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of things towards the end of the year. I have a smaller role in something that I'm shooting on Sunday. I'm leaving on Sunday to shoot, and then a larger role in something that I'm shooting in December. So I'm working.
So I wanted to open up the audience, but I wanted to ask one more question before we do,
please.
because I was really curious about kind of reference points and touchstones for this film. Reading reviews for this, it's been called a sociopathic Romeo and Michelle, which
Yes.
I'm sure you've seen that.
That's my favorite.
I saw a review that referred to it as a psychotic Laverne and Shirley. I haven't heard it compared to Thelma and Louise, but I'm sure someone did at some point. So did you look to any of those kind of female buddy movies or TV shows as a reference point? Or
Preparation for acting.
Yeah.
I didn't, because it was so relatable to me right away. I read the script, and when I first read the script, I didn't know I was auditioning for it, but I was. I read it in front of some folks that they were getting feedback for, and they offered me the role after that, and I feel a lot of kinship with Allie, and these characters feel very familiar to me, but I subsequently have spent a lot of time thinking about women, especially duos, in film and find in TV. And obviously, you know, we've been compared to girls a lot, which has happened, and so I've thought about it a lot subsequently, but I didn't think about it when I was preparing for the role, because I thought she was really well fleshed out. I thought both Allie and Harper were really multidimensional, and obviously that was one of the things that drew me to it in the first place. And so it was actually quite seamless. The whole process of getting to know Allie and getting to know the world that she lived in. Yeah.
And the structure seems vaguely familiar from Scorsese's After Hours. I don't know if you
yes,
probably
we've
mentioned
heard.
that to you.
Yeah, After Hours and Quick Change, the Bill Murray movie. We've had some comparisons to that. Funnily enough, neither SV or Charles had seen either of those movies, but we're very happy to be in that company of that kind of thing. Yeah.
Great. I want to open it up to
Yeah.
questions from the audience if anyone has questions for Claire. Yes, right there.
So the shopping scene where
Yes.
you're picking out clothes,
Yes.
and you say, is this southwestern or please tell me that was ad-lib and not scripted.
It was ad-libbed, yes. That was from my personal experience. That was an improvised moment. Thank you for catching that. I appreciate that.
So what about the whole bike stealing sequence? That was amazing, where the woman says, I just watched you having your bike stolen.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
actually, that was the reason, that was the first time in that script where I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is like, I felt all of the levels of it. Like, I would do probably the same thing that those girls did. Also, I would be looking at myself, thinking the things that she thought also, all of that.
And that's when I realized you girls were not prepared for adulthood.
Yes.
At that point, yes. I mean, yes. Anyone else have any questions for Claire? Yeah, who are here?
It was really fucking cold, if that's what you're getting at. It was the end of August and the beginning of September, so it was quite chilly. But it was also very beautiful during the day. It felt like a little bit of a vacation through Brooklyn. It was great.
How about right there?
Hi, Claire. So, do you find, you said something about not ready to be adults.
Yeah.
Do you find that there is a difference in the way your audience sees this movie depending on their age?
That's a really good question, and I obviously we've shared it with our mothers and with other people of different kinds of generations, and in general we found that that sometimes while the sexuality of the girls can be a little bit uncomfortable for different age groups, because they're quite open about the way that they talk about sex, and obviously we're showing our bodies in a certain way, and we're very casual about the way that we talk about sex, and that can be uncomfortable for some generations. But in general, I think that there's a thread of uncertainty that resonates for all generations, where there's a moment in one's life that feels very undefined and feels very uncomfortable, and I think that that's something that has resonated with different generations. That's what I would say. That's what we've heard mostly from the people who are close to us that we've talked to about it.
And it's interesting, I think the film is played at LGBT film festivals, correct? Or a couple of them at least?
Yes, yeah.
So how does that work? I mean, because certainly maybe there's undertones, perhaps, I don't know.
Yes, yeah. We haven't, I haven't been at any of those festivals yet, and we haven't had those conversations in full, but that's, I think that that's a question that happens more often or it's a question we get from audiences more often in the coasts, just in general, which is, cool, it's neat, it's a cool question to answer, and we generally say that there are no intentions in this movie other than to get from the beginning to the end, and then everything else that happens in between is something that is a lot of it is brought to the movie from audiences. So it's a little bit of a Rorschach test, just a little bit.
And you do have the couple that makes the tea cookies.
We do have the couple
Yes.
that makes the tea cookies,
That's not a couple.
which is not a couple.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Are there any other questions for Claire?
Question about the music.
Oh,
Yeah.
The end cap of the twins
Yes.
Was that in the script that you read when you read it? Was that
Yes.
what it was?
Yes, the twins were at the beginning and at the end, and there was a lot of conversation about the twins ending the movie, and a lot of people told them not to end the movie that way, and they decided to do it anyways. Because a lot of it is about, for me personally, a lot of the movie is about engagement versus non-engagement. Me personally, I'm not putting words into anybody else's mouth. That was just me, just Claire. And I think that was an important part of the film, to see people who are engaging regardless of, what the outcome is, and people who aren't.
There was a question over here, I think, sir. Yes.
Did you actually meet Greg Loft?
Hi, Jason. I met him after a screening of it in Brooklyn. I didn't meet him the day of shooting, but I did meet him afterwards, and he was very happy. He asked some very, very interesting questions. He's a really nice dude.
All right, next.
I know you promoted your life.
Hi, Becca.